Hey everybody, welcome to the Ed Fernandez Show. I was praying, so I apologize for what you're seeing right now. But, the show is called, Do You Really Want to Be an Entrepreneur? And here's why. Being an entrepreneur is very, very difficult and it's very hard. I'm not trying to discourage anyone from being an entrepreneur. I am trying to encourage you to be an entrepreneur. So here's what we're going to do today. And I apologize because I'm just going to go for it. And I pray that you get something out of this. But here is right here. You see this stack right here. This is like 5 journals. And this is 23 years of my life that I have written on. And the 23 years of my life, starting in 2000 to 2023, there has been a lot of tough times. And there's been a lot of happy times. But the point of this show today is to show you that, when you see the Ed Fernandez show and, you see the planes and you see the cars and the watches and you see my family and you see all the wonderful things that God has done. It never started that way. It was a journey, and a journey that taught me how to trust my Father fully. And so there was an episode that I said, when you follow Jesus, it's kind of like cheating. And I said that because of this experience, of the 23 years of my life that God showed up every single time. 1031 crowdfunding and the businesses that we own wasn't because of Ed and Ruth Fernandez. It was because of Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, who was so kind and gracious to pick me and my wife to do this business. But we're going to start here, and I'm going to attempt, and please forgive me, but I'm going to attempt to read some things. So I'm going to use these right here. And this is probably going to be part 1 and a part 2, because this is right here. I'm going to stop at 2014. But these right here from 2014 to 2023 currently. So I'm going to put these to the side because I'm not going to use these today, because then we'd be like 5-hour podcast and you guys are going to fall asleep and it's going to be all boring. So we ain't doing that. But we're going to do this. So what I'm about to read you is, I used to work, well, let me tell you, prior to being in the financial services industry and doing the real estate and doing all the things that we do, I was a produce manager at a health food store. And I counted tomatoes and lettuce, and I set it up, and I think I was making $7 an hour. And then from there, I think in one of my episodes, probably episode 0, I was approached by a friend from church, and I took on a job at a place selling precious metals. And then from precious metals, I went into the commodities industry and started trading, currencies and pork belly and cocoa and all that other stuff. And I got fired from that job. I went to Miami to preach at a Spanish church. And when I got back, I was fired. And I was devastated. And even though I was devastated, I was kind of relieved too, because it was a grind and I was very unhappy, even though I was making money. And so this right here picks up from that point. It says, and this is God talking to me. And I keep saying, he does talk. Be encouraged and in control. Don't lean on my own understanding. Don't waste my thoughts on things I don't need to think about. Keep seeking me. Don't never get dull of seeking me. Let everything go. Heart of compassion is going to give discernment of compassion. Can't hold on to a lot of stuff. I have to let it go. Watch where I walk. Can't be walking everywhere. Have to be led by the Spirit. God is going to put me on a real discipline program. And I can't be going everywhere because Satan will have traps for me. Son, you have to stay close to me because in you, this is what the Father wants from me. I could tell you right now what I was feeling here. I lost my job. I didn't have much money. My son, Darian, who's 25, was maybe 1.5 years old, little. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I was just on my hands and knees, and I was just asking God because I was so discouraged. But God had a plan. Here's the next day. He had me in my old job to show my diligence and hard work. But now it's time to show patience and slow down. My job required me to work 14-hour days. I was in the office by 5 a.m., trading the markets, and didn't get home till 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. That was every day, all day long. It was one of the most difficult jobs that I ever had. But it trained me. It trained me not to quit. It trained me to just run through walls. It trained me to be tenacious. And you see, every time something happens, and every time you go through something, it's not wasted. Don't think you're wasting your time. Don't think that you're at this dead-end place. Because you know what? When you follow God, God takes everything and uses it. And what he did with this job is he used it to show me what hard work was. I was praying and a cloud came in. Woo! It's no joke, man. I'm telling you. When you sit in the presence of God, I'm telling you. And then I asked the Lord, is this really your presence? He said, put your hands out. So I put my hands out. I put my hands out like this. And he imparted the gift of healing in my hands. And he says, and I will give you more gifts. As I can trust you. I was just talking to Justin here, who's handling all the videos here. And I was telling Justin was asking me a lot of questions about, God and how do I hear God? And when in the middle of the conversation, I said, the Father has a Ferrari for you. He has it for you. But you have a terrible driving record. You got your license suspended. You've been pulled over many times. You got all kinds of tickets and your insurance premiums have gone through the roof because you're not obeying the law. Well, even though God has this for you, here, honey, this is what I have for you. I want to give it to you. But I can't give it to you because I can't trust you. God will empower you. God will give you so many things if he can trust you. And how can he trust you? He could trust you by being intent. I had no idea this is where I was going. Thank you, Father. But he can trust you when you're intent in your walk, in your obedience. That was May 17th, 2000. You will begin your journey soon. I will visit you in this manner as you pray. Your fasting was all I required at this time. You will be required to live this life from now on. You will have money in the bank. I want you to wait on me. I was at the time, I was like, Lord, are you out of your mind? I had no money. We weren't even paying our mortgage. I had a little tiny condo, and we didn't have the money for the mortgage. All we had was money for food and utilities. We needed to keep the water on, the lights on, the gas on. And I had to make sure that my baby, Darian, and my wife, Ruth, had money so that we can eat, and we had money for gas. So that was 2000. Now, you notice here's another one, and I got a lot of stuff right here. I don't know if I'm going to go through it all, but I'm going to start here. But that was 2000. I'm going to pick this up in 2001. This is a really cool story. Whew. Hopefully, I'm telling y'all, hopefully that you get something out of it, but I'm going to read, okay? This was January 4th, 2001. I started at Cornerstone. 1/4/2001. Cornerstone, I'll tell you, I'll give you background. So I was a commodities broker, right? So I used to trade, like I said, currencies and pork bellies and cocoa, and I had a lot of clients. And what I realized is that, this was legalized gambling, and a lot of people would call me, and family members would call me because their loved ones were gambling away their life savings just because there was an addiction to it, and I couldn't live with that. And by the grace of God, I got fired, but I got hired from this real estate company. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know anything about real estate. I just wanted the money. So Cornerstone was a company that created real estate products for investors to invest. Does that sound familiar to you? Because in 2001, I knew nothing. Today, 2023, what does 1031 crowdfunding do? Woo! 1031 crowdfunding creates real estate products for investors to invest. 23 years, 22 years. And I'm doing the same thing that I didn't know anything about. Because of not my faithfulness, but the faithfulness of my Father. So let me read you this. It's pretty cool, man. I think it's pretty cool. Sorry. I started at Cornerstone on 1/4/2001. And it was after 8 months with no job. Let me explain. Back in the day, I think I couldn't afford a computer, so I don't think we had internet. I don't know. Do we have internet in 2001? When did the internet start? I don't know. But back then, you had to look through the newspaper for a job, or, you couldn't file online and go and get a job. So for 8 months, when I would pick up the newspaper looking for a job, God would say to me, stop looking for a job. Because one day he said, do you want to work for me or do you want to work for man? And I said, Lord, I want to work for you. Okay, don't look for a job. Wait on me. I had to wait 8 months. 8 months with no money. How the heck did you do that? You know, in the Bible, there was a group of people that, you know, the king Pharaoh had. It was the Israelites, and God set them free. Set them free into the desert for 40 years. And for 40 years, their sandals didn't wear down. Their clothes didn't wear out. When it was cold, he followed them with a pillar of fire. When it was hot, he made clouds follow them. When they were hungry and had no food, God created manna, some kind of food that fell from heaven. When they wanted meat, God made quail fall right in front of them so they can have meat. My point is I don't know how I made it the 8 months, but my oil in my lamp never ran dry because of my father. So 8 months without a job. Prior to Cornerstone, I was a commodities broker trading, and it was a tough job. I worked 14-hour days. In March of 2000, I went to Florida to preach at a small church in Miami. And when I returned home from my trip, I was fired. I believe the Lord got me fired because I would not have never left that job. From April of 2000 until 1/4 of 2001, I had no job. Not because I didn't want one, but because every time I would look for one, the Lord would tell me no, that I had to wait on him. What if I didn't wait? What if I decided to do things on my own? Where would I be today? This is where you have to walk by faith and not by sight. You can't continue to follow God looking for signs and wonders. You just got to believe. And so because God set me up in my previous book here with the cloud and his presence, I knew he was with me. I knew it. So I waited on him. When I would look into the paper, the Lord would say to me, I told you to wait. I couldn't pay my mortgage, car payments, credit cards. All the money I had in savings was used to eat and pay the utilities. During that time, I believe I was in a spiritual boot camp. Even my wife was having such a hard time. And if you know my wife, Ruth, you'd be like, are you out of your mind? That's not her. That was her at that time. She was so discouraged and dried up as a bone that she stopped going to church. And one day I was praying in my closet and the Lord said to me, go back to the church that you used to go to and that you would meet a businessman there. Tell you the story. We were going to a church. I graduated from School of Ministry from a place called Cottonwoods School of Ministry, and one of my friends, a former graduate with me, started a church, and so I believed that I needed to go and help him. But we were drier than a bone, and we used to go to a church called Life Church. You know, we're still Pastor Phil and Jeannie Muncie. Pastor Phil, Pastor Jeannie, thank you so much for being a part of my life. And God told us to go back to Life Church. We used to go to their church, but I left that church to go to my friend's church. Here's my point. Very important to know where you belong and where your home is when it comes to going to church. You can't jump around and go to this church and go to that church just because it feels good, just because it's the flavor of the month. Make sure that's where God has you. So God told me, go back. And so I go back to this church and I'm going to the bathroom, right? And next to me, this guy starts talking to me. And we're like doing our thing. And I'm like, this guy's tripping. So he tells me and he says, I've been watching you. I want you to come see me. And this is where it picks off. Ruth and I were having problems in our marriage when we went back listening to God, thinking I was crazy, but listening anyway. It was like a breath of fresh air for us. If God did not do something, we would not be here together to talk about it, what God has done today. He intervened and saved my marriage at this church. 3 weeks later, I met a really good friend of mine, Mr. Alfred Pizarro, still a very good friend of mine. Love him. And he walked up to me and he said, I've been watching you. You have a lot of passion. We are starting a company here. And here's my card. Come and see me. At the time, I was working at a place called Oldie Discount Brokerage. That's a whole other story of how I got that job. But I went to see Al Pizarro. And I met an individual by the name of Terry Roussel, the owner. As I sat down, Terry said to me that he was starting a company that may not be here in 6 months. How much do you want a month? Remember, I was making nothing. Man, I should have said like $10,000 a month. Stupid me. But I said, I need $3,000 a month. That was a 100% increase from what I was making at the present time. I didn't care what he said about the company not being here in 6 months. I just wanted the money. And my next entry was 7 years later. April 1st, 2008. This is my first entry for this year, and it has been so hard. We as a company are still in need of money. For me, it has been so hard. This has taken all I have. Last night I told God, I have no more to give. And I was crying to him to fill me. I owe about $60,000 in debt that I had to pay this year. I have been discouraged before, and God has always seen me through. My hope is in him. Lord, I love you and I trust you always. I know you know what you're doing. If I can do no more and all I can do is stand and watch the glory of the Lord, I love you. You see, sometimes people watch this show and they'll judge me because of all the nice things that I have. But they don't know the price that my family has paid. And I can tell you, it's been worth would I ever want to go through this again? Absolutely not. I would not. Look, let me tell you something. If God gave me a contract and said, and I read the contract, and the contract said, you're going to go through this, and 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 this, and this, and this, and this, and this. But at the end of the day, it's going to be okay. Sign on the dotted line. I'm like, are you out of your mind? I'm not doing that. There was no way that I was going to sign up for this. No way. It was way too hard. Way too hard. What was that date I just gave? Let me see. I'm sorry, guys. This is, I think that was April 1st, 2008. This is 14 days later. Received a paycheck today. Yesterday, I found that we haven't paid rent in 3 months. Yesterday was a tough day. Last night I was talking to God in disappointment, and I said, why? And how much more do you want from me and us? I always said, why don't you talk to me in my sleep or in a dream? And last night he said, in a dream, this will soon pass. You see, when you go through some tough things, you're going to be discouraged and you're going to cry. Do you know how many times I would lay in my bed and cry and cry and cry? I cried so much, I had no more tears to give because I was so scared. But these journals that I've been writing for 23 years, these are altars. Back in the day when God created miracles, people would stack rocks and make altars to remind them of all the miracles that God has done. These are my altars. These are the rocks that I have stacked for 23 years. And I can go back and I can see the pain that I've gone through. But when I walk past the Jordan and I remember him parting the sea, because of my altars, I could say, God, I know I've been going through some tough times. But I remember when you did this for me, and I remember when you did this for me, and I remember when you did this for me, and you did this for me, and you did this for me, and you did it over, and you did it over and over and over and over again. It allows me to breathe another day. It allows me to walk another day. It allows me to believe just a little bit more, no matter what I've been going through. So these are my altars that I've been setting up. And you notice I got a lot of altars because God has done a lot of amazing things for me. Let's see. Where are we at now? Jeez. A month later. Same thing. I was discouraged. It keeps going. Discouraged. 2008. I'm discouraged. Let's see. Where's another one? This one's 2009, January. Listen to this. So in 2008, it's kind of like September, there was the Great Recession. Look it up, Google it. It's called the Great Recession. There was a Great Depression, and this one is the Great Recession, the worst recession our country has ever experienced. January 23rd, 2009, we start the new year at Cornerstone in need again. This is the worst economic times in our history. 4+ million jobs lost. Foreclosures are rampant because of the mortgage crisis and the credit crunch. WAMU, Washington Mutual. You guys probably don't even know who the heck WAMU is, but there was a bank called Washington Mutual, was purchased by Chase. Lehman Brothers don't exist. They don't exist anymore. Wachovia was bought by Wells Fargo, and Merrill Lynch is now owned by Bank of America. The market went from 14,000, the Dow Jones, in June of 2008 to 7,900 today. The fear of investing is all over the world. and also a $50 billion Ponzi scheme. This was Bernie Madoff. I lived through that. But for many, many years at this company, for some reason, we would struggle month after month after month after month to make payroll. My job was to raise the money to make payroll. That was my job. We sold an investment. The investment was to, invest in a company or an entity that we had, and that money that came in was used to take care of operating expenses. And my job was to raise that money every single month, and it was the most difficult thing that I've ever done. But remember, I just read it a little while ago, that God took me through my previous job and through the grind of my previous job to prepare me for this. I didn't know it at the time, but to prepare me for this. We were all in the boss's office praying. We were scared. We were so scared. And all of us were sitting in the office, and the boss said, "Ed, I know you want an answer in the natural, but I don't have one. Here's what I was asking." I was like, "Guys, what are we going to do? This thing looks like it's over." So we were praying in his office, and my boss had a sheet of paper. It was a balance sheet. And when I started praying, God started speaking through me, and he said a lot of things that I just can't remember. But what I do remember is he said that he has provided for us already, and the money is here. Gather the fishes and the loaves, and you will feed the people. Check the accounts, God said. It is in here. And so that night I went to a meeting. I was just still trying to work and trying to make things. And I was driving home at 7:00 at night. And the phone rang, and I was on speakerphone. And my boss said that he had the CFO check all the accounts, and that he found $450,000 that was available that he didn't know even existed. And so we had a total of $550,000. That was like one of the most wonderful days that I can remember because we were going to get paid. I worked every single day, 5 days a week, all year long, year after year after year after year. Not getting paid, then getting paid, not getting paid, then getting paid. Do you know I quit this job 5 times? 5 times I quit this job, and I would get in my car so angry, and I would tell God, I am done with this. I'm not doing this anymore. I am tired of this, God. I'm just going to go get a job. And I would be a block away from my house. And remember, I keep telling you, God talks. And God would say, do you trust me? And I'd be like, Lord, I trust you. And he would tell me, turn around and go back 5 times. It's okay to feel like you want to quit. It's okay if you feel like you can't do it anymore. It's normal. That's normal. Don't feel like you're a failure. Don't feel like you're just like some odd duck. I'm just telling you, it's normal to feel like this. And I can keep going on and on and on. But I'm going to summarize this really quick. I mean, I can go to 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. I had 13 years of this mess. 13 years and I didn't quit. Wasn't because of by my power or by my strength, but by the Spirit of God, I didn't quit. And I thank God I didn't. But what got me through it? It was being on my face every day. Yep. It was fasting to kill my flesh so I can hear the voice of God. Yep. It was him giving me a glimpse of my future. That's what got me through this. So I'm going to close with this because episode 2, I'll pick it up where we left off and finish these 2 because I don't want to bore you. I don't want to keep talking too much either. But here's my message to you, Mr. Entrepreneur, Mrs. Entrepreneur. You really want to be an entrepreneur? I have no idea how people become entrepreneurs without God in their lives because it is such a difficult thing. Everyone sees the glory and the glam and they see all the prosperity and they see all the money and all the things and they think that we're stealing from the church and they think that we're doing all these things. But I tell you, my family has paid the price. And what I'm saying to you today is that you can do it too. You can be that entrepreneur. You can do what God has called you to do. You can do what you've been born to do. You can do it. But don't try to do it without God, because there's no way I would have been able to do it without my Father. But I want to encourage you. 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 It's okay to feel down. It's okay to feel discouraged. It's okay to feel like nothing. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to feel like a failure. It's normal. As long as you walk with God, you will see the other side, I promise you. Hopefully you got something from this. Hopefully this is giving you some hope. Hopefully I'm equipping the warriors for the kingdom of God, because the wealth of the wicked are held up for the just. So until next time, to be continued. Thank you for watching. You're the best thing of the Ed Fernandez Show. You have a great day.